They told you dreams are random, brain static, just leftover thoughts from your day. They lied. For thousands of years, entire civilizations treated dreams as sacred messages, guidance from the spirit world, warnings from ancestors, even visions of the future. Kings made decisions based on them. Temples were built for them. And then, it all disappeared. You were told to ignore them, forget them, laugh them off over breakfast. But here's the truth. Your dreams are not meaningless. They are a secret language, one your soul speaks every night. They carry the answers you've been asking for, the warnings you've been ignoring, the visions of the life you're meant to live. And once you learn how to listen, nothing in your waking world will ever look the same again. They never feared your dreams. They feared what they could unlock. Long before you were born, long before your parents were taught to dismiss them, dreams were understood as sacred transmissions. They were not entertainment. They were not just the brain sorting memories. They were the bridge between the seen and unseen, the place where ancestors whispered guidance, where the future sent warnings, where the soul spoke in symbols too pure for the waking mind to distort. But you were never told that. You were told they're meaningless, a byproduct of sleep, random firings of neurons with no purpose except to keep the brain busy until morning. And you believed it because everyone around you believed it too. The truth is, your dreams were never irrelevant. They were dangerous not to you, but to the systems built to keep you small. Because a person who learns to listen to their dreams becomes harder to control. When you dream consciously, you begin to see patterns the waking world hides. You receive answers without permission from authority. You connect directly to what ancient cultures called the source, the divine, the all. And that is a threat to any structure that survives by making you dependent on it for meaning. In ancient Mesopotamia, kings would not make major political decisions without consulting their dream interpreters. In Egypt, priests trained for decades in the art of dream incubation, entering temples designed to amplify visions in the night. In the Americas, indigenous shamans saw dreams as equal in importance to waking life, sometimes more real, because they were not bound by the illusions of physical form. In Greece, seekers traveled to the temples of Asclepius, where they would sleep on stone beds after rituals of fasting and purification, waiting for a healing vision to arrive. Dreams were medicine. They were prophecy. They were the original internet, a network that connected every soul to the infinite. So why did the modern world strip them of their meaning? Why did they convince you that the strange, vivid landscapes of your night were nothing but mental clutter? Because when you trust your dreams, you trust yourself. You begin to decode a language that doesn't pass through their filters. Dreams don't care about political narratives, corporate advertising, or religious dogma. They speak in truth, the kind of truth that bypasses the logical mind and lands directly in the heart. And once you start listening, once you start waking up inside the dream, the waking world looks different. You see the cracks in the stories they've told you. You start to question the reality you've been handed. They don't want that. So they gave you another story. They told you dreams are the brain replaying memories, that they're just the mind's way of processing emotions, that if they mean anything at all, it's only to the extent that they help you function better in daily life. They turn the sacred into science, and then into nothing. They made you forget that for most of human history, people lived for their dreams. They didn't wake up and check their phones, they woke up and checked their visions. What you weren't told is that your brain, body, and soul all collaborate when you dream. Yes, there are chemical and neurological processes involved, REM cycles, theta brainwaves, shifts in neurotransmitters, but these are not the cause of dreams. They are the instruments. The cause is deeper, older. The cause is that you are more than flesh, more than thoughts, more than the story you tell yourself when you're awake. And in the dream state, the walls between worlds thin just enough for the real you to send a message through. But not all dreams are equal. Some are the mind's way of filing away the day. Others are what mystics called true dreams messages, encoded in symbols, colors, and sensations that speak to the direction of your life. In ancient cultures, people learned to tell the difference. Today, you were never taught how. Instead, you were told to forget. Forgetting was the first act of control, because when you forget your dreams, you forget yourself. You lose touch with the part of you that remembers why you're here, and so you sleep not just at night, but in life. You walk through your days half awake, half alive, waiting for something outside of you to give you purpose. The ancients would have called that a living death. Dreams are not just symbolic puzzles to solve. They are living conversations with your own consciousness, with the consciousness of the planet, and sometimes with something beyond both. The imagery is not random. Every setting, every person, every strange shift in logic carries a vibration, a frequency that you can feel if you pay attention. That frequency is not just for entertainment, it's an instruction. It's a nudge. It's a warning. It's a reminder. This is why people who keep dream journals often find their lives changing. Not because writing dreams down is magic, but because the act of remembering reactivates a skill your ancestors once relied on, the ability to navigate the symbolic. Dreams don't speak in plain sentences. They speak in archetypes, the same recurring shapes, animals, elements, and patterns that appear in myths across the globe. And that's no coincidence. The lion in an African hunter's dream carries the same archetypal weight as the lion in a European mystic's vision. The serpent in an Amazonian shaman's dream carries the same energy as the serpent carved into the temples of India. These are not cultural accidents. They are evidence that dreams connect to something universal, a shared field of images and meanings that Carl Jung called the collective unconscious, but that ancient people simply called the other world. In that place, time is fluid. Distance means nothing. The boundaries between your mind and the mind of the world dissolve. The tragedy is that you were taught to see this as nonsense. You were taught that your dreams are just noise. And so the messages pass you by, night after night, waiting for you to wake up in the dream and in your life. But here's the truth they never wanted you to know. If you learn to work with your dreams intentionally, you will change your waking life. The symbols will start showing up in both worlds. You'll see the same hawk in your dream and on your morning walk. You'll hear a phrase in the dream, and then in a stranger's conversation the next day. You'll realize that reality is not divided into waking and dreaming, it's one continuous field, and you've just been trained to notice only half of it. And once you see that, once you begin to act on the messages you're given, the game changes, because you stop living reactively. You stop waiting for permission. You start walking with guidance that no one else can access, because it's tuned to you. That's what they fear. That's why they buried it. The story of dreams did not begin in the pages of modern psychology. It began in stone temples, in desert caves, in fire circles, under night skies so clear you could see the Milky Way with your naked eyes. Civilizations we now call ancient built their spiritual and political foundations on a truth we have forgotten. The dream is not separate from life. It is life in another form. And those who could travel there with awareness held a power that no army, no weapon, no gold could rival. In Egypt, dreams were considered messages from the gods, and the interpretation of those messages was an art guarded by the priesthood. They had entire schools dedicated to teaching the language of symbols. These were not casual guesses about what a dream might mean. These were lineages of wisdom, passed down for generations, so precise that they were used to guide national decisions. There are papyrus scrolls that still survive today, filled with lists of dream symbols and their meanings, like the first dictionaries of the soul. But there was more to it than translation. The Egyptians practiced dream incubation, a sacred process in which the dreamer prepared themselves to receive a specific message. Fasting, bathing in oils, wearing certain stones, sleeping in temples aligned with the stars, every detail mattered. They knew the dream realm could be tuned like a radio if you entered it with intention. The Greeks inherited this practice through the cult of Asclepius, the god of healing. People who were ill would travel sometimes hundreds of miles to an Asclepian. a temple designed for healing through dreams. They would purify themselves through diet and ritual, then sleep in a special chamber known as the Abaton. There, they would receive a dream often involving Asclepius himself or one of his sacred animals, like the serpent that would reveal the cure or the next step in their healing. It wasn't superstition. Many reported waking up completely healed. Others were given specific instructions for herbs, diets, or lifestyle changes. The dream was not just a message, it was medicine. In Mesopotamia, the oldest known civilization, kings and commoners alike sought the wisdom of their dreams. Clay tablets from 50 years ago record detailed dream interpretations. In their worldview, dreams could come from the gods, from spirits, or even from demons, and knowing the source was key to knowing how to act. They had specialists who could discern whether a dream was a blessing, a warning, or a test. Some dreams were considered so important that they were carved into stone monuments, preserved as part of the public record. Imagine that today, governments inscribing dreams into law. Far to the east, in China, the Taoist sages believed that the dream world was a reflection of the Tao itself, the underlying reality that flows through all things. Dreams were not merely personal, they were windows into the state of the cosmos. Taoist practices often included lucid dreaming, where the dreamer becomes aware they are dreaming and can move through the dream landscape with purpose. They believed that by mastering this state, one could explore hidden realms, meet teachers from other planes of existence, and even affect the waking world. The boundary was fluid. Among the indigenous peoples of the Americas, dreams were woven into the fabric of daily life. The Ojibwe people speak of the vision quest, a rite of passage where the dream state, often brought on through fasting and isolation, reveals a young person's spiritual name, purpose, or guardian spirit. The Mapuche of South America saw dreams as a means of traveling to the other side, to communicate with ancestors. In the Amazon, shamans describe dreams as the place where plant spirits teach them which herbs will heal which illnesses. The knowledge that has sustained their cultures for millennia often came not from trial and error, but from direct instruction in the dream. These cultures did not separate the sacred from the practical. A dream could tell you when to plant crops, how to heal the sick, whether to wage war or make peace, who to marry, or where to find water in the desert. The dream world was not an escape from reality. It was a deeper layer of reality, one that informed and shaped the waking world. But here's where the story shifts. As civilizations fell and empires rose, the guardians of dream knowledge were often the first to be silenced. When new rulers wanted control, they understood that controlling the dream meant controlling the people. The priesthoods that once served as interpreters of divine messages were replaced by institutions that centralized authority in waking life only. Dreams became superstition, folklore, and eventually meaningless. The libraries of dream symbols were burned or buried. The temples of sleep were repurposed or destroyed. And the skill of intentional dreaming, once common, became the domain of a few mystics hiding in plain sight. Still, traces remain. The ancient dream temples of Egypt may be ruins now, but their alignments with the stars still whisper the old secrets. The Abaton chambers of the Asclepians still stand, their stones echoing with the dreams of the healed. In the Amazon, elders still speak of the dream as the real world and waking life as the dream of the body. And in the fragments of myths, in the repeating symbols across continents, in the private dreams you've had, that no one could explain, the lineage is still alive. What's striking is that all these cultures, separated by oceans and centuries, agreed on one thing. Dreams are not random, they are deliberate. Whether sent by gods, ancestors, spirits, or the soul itself, they arrive with purpose. And they believed that purpose could be read if you had the language. That language is not gone. You still speak it every night, whether you realize it or not. You just forgot you knew it. Modern culture doesn't teach you how to recognize the archetype of the river as a symbol of transition, or the appearance of the owl as a messenger of hidden knowledge, or the meaning of finding yourself in a childhood home you haven't seen in decades. But your deeper self remembers. The ancients saw forgetting as a kind of amnesia, a soul injury. If you do not remember where you've been in the dream, you cannot fully know where you are in waking life. That's why the first thing an apprentice learned in the dream temples was how to remember. Only then could they learn to interpret. Only then could they begin the deeper work to enter the dream consciously and change it. This is where the science begins to overlap with the mystical. Because while modern research on REM cycles, brainwaves, and neurochemistry doesn't speak the language of gods and spirits, it has stumbled onto something the ancients already knew. The dream state is a unique realm of consciousness, unlike anything else we experience. And if you understand how to work with it, you can not only receive messages, you can send them, shape them, and use them to heal. Science will tell you that dreams happen in the REM stage of sleep, rapid eye movement, increased brain activity, bursts of neural firing as your body lies still. Your muscles are paralyzed, so you don't act out the visions. Your brain shifts into a mix of alpha and theta waves, with bursts of high-frequency gamma activity. Neurotransmitters like serotonin, acetylcholine, and norepinephrine rise and fall in precise rhythms. To the laboratory, this is the mechanics of dreaming. To the mystic, this is the machinery of the temple. The ancients didn't use EEG machines or fMRI scanners, but they knew how to enter these same states on command. They fasted to alter neurochemistry. They meditated to slow brainwaves into theta. They used sacred chants and rhythms to synchronize their minds into the dream frequency. They slept in places where magnetic and energetic fields heightened the vividness of visions, temples built over ley lines, chambers designed to resonate like the inside of a drum. Without science, they mastered the science. Take the pineal gland. Modern biology describes it as a pea-sized endocrine organ deep in the brain, responsible for producing melatonin and regulating sleep cycles. But ancient spiritual traditions called it the third eye, the seat of the soul, the gateway between physical and spiritual realms. Egyptian carvings depict it as the Eye of Horus. Hindu teachings place it at the Ajna chakra, the center of intuition. Taoists saw it as the Crystal Palace, a literal inner temple of light. Today, researchers know the pineal gland contains photoreceptor cells similar to those in the eyes and is sensitive to light even in total darkness. Some studies suggest it can produce dimethyltryptamine, or DMT, a molecule often called the spirit molecule, for its ability to induce vivid, dreamlike visions even while awake. What if the pineal gland isn't just an evolutionary accident, but a biological portal, one that opens wider in sleep, allowing the soul to send and receive information from realms beyond waking perception? Ancient mystics didn't ask what if. They trained it, activated it, revered it. Then there's the matter of brain waves. In waking life, your brain hums mostly in beta waves, focused, linear, tied to the external world. But as you fall asleep, you pass through alpha, relaxed, daydreaming, then theta, the trance state, and finally into delta, deep, dreamless sleep. REM dreams sit in a strange space. Your body is in deep paralysis, but your brain is sparking like it's awake, weaving a tapestry of images, emotions, and memories into something more. To science, these are simply cognitive processes: memory consolidation, emotional regulation, neural housekeeping. But here's the overlap. The theta state, the same one that dominates REM dreaming, is also the state induced in deep meditation, shamanic journeying, and hypnosis. In other words, the dream state is the same state that humans have sought for spiritual work for thousands of years. Whether you get there in a monastery, in the jungle, or in your own bed at night, the brain is tuned to the same frequency. Now let's talk about symbols. Psychologists like Freud and Jung argued that dream symbols are projections of the subconscious mind. Science says the brain is simply using metaphor to make sense of abstract ideas. But ancient traditions said something more radical. The symbols themselves are living forces. A serpent is not just a personal symbol of transformation. It is a universal archetype, a carrier of a specific energy that can enter your life both in dreams and in waking reality. The hawk that appears in your dream is not just a neuron firing. It is the hawk's spirit, arriving with a message. Here's where quantum physics accidentally shakes hands with mysticism. In quantum theory, observation changes reality. The act of looking collapses infinite probabilities into one actual event. In dreams, your observation, your attention to a symbol, seems to affect how it appears and reappears in waking life. Modern science might call this a psychological filter, a reticular activating system that makes you notice certain patterns. Ancient dreamers would say, "The hawk is answering you." Even modern neuroscience admits that the emotional centers of the brain, the amygdala and limbic system, are hyperactive in dreams, while the prefrontal cortex, the logical gatekeeper, is less active. This means the dream state bypasses your inner sensor. The deep truths, the fears, the desires that are too raw for waking thought can speak freely. To the mystic, this is not a flaw of dreaming, it is the point. The dream strips away the ego's defenses so that the soul can speak directly. And here's the most important overlap. Science now knows that dreams can change the waking brain. Studies on dream rehearsal show that if you visualize an action in a dream like playing a piano scale, your brain strengthens the same neural pathways as if you had practiced while awake. Athletes use lucid dreaming to train. Survivors of trauma use it to rewrite nightmares into healing stories. This is not metaphor, it's measurable. And yet, it is exactly what shamans and temple dreamers claimed thousands of years ago, that what you do in the dream changes the waking world. The bridge between science and spirituality isn't a line, it's a spiral. The more science learns about the mechanics of dreaming, the closer it circles to the truths ancient people lived by. The more mystics speak of symbolic languages and spiritual realms, the more science finds neural correlates to match them. The two are not enemies. They are two ways of describing the same river, one from the surface, one from the depths. And if the ancients are right, and if the neuroscientists are right, then dreaming is not passive. It is a skill, a muscle, a sacred technology built into your biology. One that you can train to remember, to shape, to navigate with purpose. Which brings us to the final part of this journey, the how. How to reawaken this ancient technology in yourself. How to stop dismissing your dreams as random and start using them as the living guidance system they were meant to be. How to remember the language you already speak every night. The ancients would tell you, knowledge is nothing without practice. It's one thing to know that your dreams are sacred messages. It's another to live like you believe it. The difference between the two is action, the nightly rituals, the daily awareness, the willingness to treat the dream world not as a foggy movie you watch, but as a place you can enter. It begins with remembering. You can't work with a message you don't recall. This is why, in the dream temples of Egypt or the healing chambers of Asclepius, the first teaching was not about symbols or prophecy, it was about memory. The same is true for you. Tonight, before sleep, place a notebook or journal beside your bed. Write a single intention on the page. I will remember my dreams. It seems simple, almost childlike, but the mind responds to clarity. This is you turning the dial toward the dream frequency. When you wake, even in the middle of the night, write something. A fragment, a single image, the feeling you woke with. You are training your mind to treat dreams as valuable. Over time, the fragments grow into full stories. You'll notice recurring symbols, colors, even landscapes. And here is where the language begins to return. The second step is incubation. The ancients didn't just drift into sleep. They entered it with purpose. To incubate a dream is to plant a seed in the soil of your unconscious. Before sleep, focus on a single question or theme. It could be as grand as, "What is my purpose?" Or as specific as, "How do I resolve this conflict at work?" Write it down, visualize it, feel it in your body. Then, as you drift off, hold that question gently, not like a demand, but like a gift you're offering to the dream realm. The third step is awareness. At first, dreams may feel random, but patterns emerge. Pay attention to symbols that repeat. In ancient Greece, a snake coiling around a tree might signal healing. In the Amazon, it might be the voice of a plant spirit. In your life, it might be a call to shed an old identity. You don't need to memorize every cultural symbol dictionary. Your own psyche will tell you what a symbol means by the way it feels and the way it appears in your waking life afterward. The dream speaks in a personal dialect of a universal language. Then comes the fourth step, lucidity. This is the art of realizing inside the dream that you are dreaming. For some, this happens spontaneously. For others, it takes practice. During the day, ask yourself often, am I dreaming right now? Look for oddities. Is the clock's time shifting when you glance away? Can you push your finger through your palm? These reality checks become habits that follow you into the dream, triggering lucidity. Once lucid, you can explore, ask questions directly, or even change the dream's course. The ancients used this to meet spiritual teachers, to travel to sacred sites without moving their bodies, to rehearse important moments before they happened in waking life. Fifth, the return. In ancient dream practice, waking was not the end. In the morning, the dreamer would often speak the dream aloud to a trusted guide, priest, or elder. This act of speaking, giving the dream voice, was considered part of the magic. In your own life, this could mean telling the dream to a friend who understands, recording a voice memo, or even creating art from it. The act anchors the dream into waking reality, signaling to your subconscious that its messages are being received. You may also choose to respond. If a dream shows you a place in nature, visit it in waking life. If it gives you a symbol, a feather, a stone, a color, carry it with you as a talisman. This completes the circle between the worlds, letting the dream realm know you are not just listening, you are acting. And when you act on dreams, the dreams deepen. Finally, keep in mind, not all dreams arrive in gentle light. Some come as shadows, nightmares, strange distortions, unsettling visions. The ancients did not see these as punishments, but as teachers wearing masks. A nightmare is often a blocked message, a fear seeking release, or a truth you've been avoiding. Meeting it with courage, even in the dream, can transform it into an ally. Lucid dreamers often speak of turning toward what chases them, only to have it change shape into something benevolent once acknowledged. When you begin to live this way, something changes. Waking life feels less random. Coincidences multiply. The line between dream and waking begins to blur, not because you are losing your grip on reality, but because you are holding reality more completely. You start to see waking life as another dream one, where you have more control than you were taught to believe. The ancients understood that working with dreams was not an escape from the world. It was a way to engage with it more fully, more consciously, more creatively. They saw the dreamer as a bridge between realms. And when the bridge is strong, wisdom flows both ways. So tonight, as you close your eyes, remember, you are not falling asleep. You are stepping into the temple. You are entering a world where mountains can speak, rivers can teach, and your ancestors can walk beside you. You are both traveler and interpreter, both student and creator. The dream is waiting, and it has been speaking to you all your life. Now listen. If this spoke to something deep in you, if you felt that pull, that recognition, then start tonight. Don't let the insight fade into tomorrow's noise. Grab a notebook. Write your intention. Begin your dream journal. Ask one question before sleep. And when you wake, capture the answer, even if it's only a fragment. The ancient dreamers didn't wait for permission, they stepped into the mystery. Now it's your turn.